Hi everyone, thanks for tuning in. I am Bethany Poole, Director of Think with Google, and I lead the team here in the US who brings data and insights from Google to help marketers be more successful. And I'm sitting here with Joshua Lowcock, who is the Executive Vice President and Chief Digital Officer for Universal McCann. And he has graciously agreed to come and talk to us today about the changing shifts in consumer behavior we're seeing that are being driven by mobile. Josh, let's start off by just telling us a little bit about yourself and your role.
So, as Bethany introduced, I'm Joshua Lowcock, Chief Digital Officer at We're one of the largest media agencies in the world. We've got here in the US, we have clients such as BMW Mini, Sony Pictures, Hulu, CVS Health, and Coca-Cola. And we're focused on helping our clients find better ways to reach customers with advertising.
Wonderful, thank you. So one of the things that we have seen as consumers shift more and more to mobile, Joshua, is that people are becoming more research obsessed. We've seen a lot of research around it. I think we have a stat around this that we can pop up. Mobile searches for best have grown over 80% in the past 2 years, and searches for best have actually shown higher growth among low consideration items like toothbrushes and shower curtains versus high consideration products like cars. How have you seen that play out with your clients and how you're having them seize opportunities?
Look, we're seeing the same sort of thing happen across all of our clients, and there's a real desperate need for consumers to find authenticity and real genuine opinions and views on things. They want to understand how they're getting value, and there's a growing sense skepticism about when you see brand advertising or its general messaging, and like, how do I get to the truth about what's the valuable product, the right decision for me, and that need for personalization and relevance to me in the moment as opposed to what you're trying to sell me or try and tell me as a mass consumer.
Really helpful. The other thing that we're seeing is that people are getting much more impatient. They want things right now. How are you seeing that play out as people turn to mobile more and more?
So that's an issue. I think that we're really in sort of this on-demand generation where people want things now. The mobile side of things gets interesting because we're seeing location play an increasingly important role. So, and this expectation that we know what they're searching for in the moment and on that device and where they are. So we're seeing people search for things like, and CVS is a client, so where's the nearest CVS to me? And the expectation is, we already know where you are, what the CVS is, and you want to know the actual nearest one to you, not the general location of CVS's all over America.
Yeah, that's great. We've seen it across the board too, in terms of the near me comes in, but we're actually seeing searches for that are dropping that a lot as well, as people just seem to expect you to know as the marketer and the brand what they're looking for and where they are.
Yeah, and that's an interesting thing because I think people, like, there's so much data available to us as marketers. I think people are waking up to the fact that if this data is available, I expect marketers to be using that data to make my life easier and simpler and answer my questions or communicate with me in personal, meaningful ways.
Thank you. For those of you just tuning in, I am talking to Joshua Lowcock, EVP of and Chief Digital Officer there, about the shifts that mobile has changed, the consumer behavior shifts that we're seeing because of mobile and what kind of opportunities that opens up for marketers. I think we have a few questions from the audience, so we're going to turn to those now. And we'll start out with a question for Tyler. How is this shift to mobile changing what you do on a day-to-day basis?
So mobile is an interesting one because, like, it's a media channel and it's also a source of data. And so one of the things that we've been very sort of diligent on and passionate about is using mobile as an insight platform, not just as a media platform for communication. So there's no argument, like Google has the stats are out, like, more than half the time is now spent on a mobile device. But at the same time, now we can actually understand where people are in their journey, where their location is. Are they in store? Are they not in store? Are they passing by the store? One of the things we're actually using mobile data for is media should be driving a business result. Like, marketing should be driving sales. But at the same time, I can use mobile to inform me, is it driving people to store? Because if sales aren't happening, is that identifying another problem in the organization that media can't control?
That's a really good point. I'll go to the next question. From Stephanie in New York. Which brands do you think have done the best job adapting to the needs of these micro moments? And it all makes sense, but thinking of how to create content that speaks to the... thinking about how content that we create speaks to these moments seems nearly impossible without touting your brand in a braggadocious way. So what do you recommend?
What do I recommend? That's two excellent sort of parts of a question. Look, so I think the first challenge is finding the right data to be personal and relevant and intimate without being creepy, because there's so much data you can easily be creepy and make people feel uncomfortable. I think what brands need to do, and the real power comes from that personalization and relevance. And if you want to reach people in that micro moment, it's that trade-off between mass marketing and personalized marketing and dynamic creative. So if you're doing things like programmatic spend, one of the things I always argue, if you're doing programmatic without creative personalization, you're not actually getting the value of all that data and being able to communicate to someone in a micro moment. So if you know that I've just got off the train and I'm hungry for breakfast, serving me something that's relevant to the train station I got off on, the restaurants that are nearby, what breakfast items they serve, and what breakfast item I'm most likely to purchase is going to be highly more valuable than a generic, hey, we're now open for breakfast type message. And that's how you be more effective in that micro moment.
You're really adding assistance and usefulness to the consumer.
It's the age of assistance. Yeah. It's like you have to have this assistance to be actually meaningful.
Great. And one from Aban. I'd love to hear some of real life examples of how brands can meet the needs of these micro moments. Oh, we just talked about this. Let's see. I'm going to keep going down. From GK, how do you reveal the key micro moments? What are key metrics to detect them on e-commerce for desktop users and mobile users?
Okay, so the e-commerce part of that question is interesting. And what I would I'm not going to answer the e-commerce part straight away. I'm going to answer something else first, which is in micro moments, what we're always looking for as marketers is scale. So micro moments are important, but as a marketer, you need to reach people at scale to drive some impact from your media. So the first test I always apply is, does the micro moment scale up? So you look at things like there's tens of thousands of people in the US that have a milestone birthday every year. That's a really meaningful micro moment that scales in a big way. On the e-commerce side of things, it's very easier to get narrow down to close and go, okay, they've looked at an ad or they've looked at a product on a website, so now they're in the micro moment of shopping for kayaks. I'm going to serve them ads for kayak paddles for the rest of the week. The challenge, I think, on the e-commerce environment is being realistic about the decisioning process, and getting back to that comment you made before is about that research side of the journey. So on the e-commerce side of things, it's what is the best, what am I looking for, and serving up content in those micro moments, or partnering around content in those micro moments, as opposed to what would be traditional digital style banners and such terms.
It's been really interesting to see the growth in best on mobile over the last 2 years. It's even in terms of reviews. We're seeing reviews for 100% growth in reviews for best toothbrush of all things. So it is interesting to see how people are turning and researching and how brands could be helpful in those moments. I have a new question from Felipe. What are the main challenges of working with an omnichannel media, and we're typing these, this is live. What are the main challenges of working with omnichannel media in micro moments? As you think across all of the touch points.
That's a great question again. I think there's an expectation that, I think the digital industry is obsessed that, some parts of media are full of waste and that's a bad thing. And I would disagree. I think there's value in mass reach audiences, and I think what you've really got to do is work out the complementary nature of things and drive the intimacy in those personalized media moments. So TV, radio, out of home can drive great mass awareness and engagement. I think the micro moments part is all about intimacy and personalization and being relevant to the individual in a one-to-one time. So it's about, it's those touch points of driving people from one channel to the next, or understanding that there's connection, that all media interacts with each other. It's not about just trying to do micro moments in broadcast TV. You can do micro moments in video, and you can do them in different ways from broadcast to online video by taking advantages of the personalization in the platforms.
Great. I think we have a similar question from Tim, but thinking kind of looking forward. What's the difference between micro moment mentality for voice search and mobile search? Like, how are you advising your brands to think about those two things? Are they different? How do you suggest people tackle that? Advising your brands to think.
I encourage everyone to really get active and passionate about voice search, because the biggest challenge in the voice search micro moments is there's usually only ever one answer and one result. So if you're not playing in that space, you're going to miss out. And so the expectation, like if you go through, we're in the age of authenticity, assistance, and sort of augmented reality or augmented knowledge. And so with voice search, you actually want to give people the right answer at the right time, and there's no second chance. So if someone asks the question, what's the best toothbrush? You can't serve up, oh, I'm going to give you 400 different answers. It's going to go, this is the one, there's only going to be one, end of conversation. So if brands aren't learning about how to play in voice search, they're going to have massive, brand challenges and marketing challenges in the future.
Thank you, Joshua. This has been wonderful. I'd like to leave our audience with some words of wisdom from you as we're all thinking about 2018 and moving forward. What are your thoughts for marketers in terms of what they should be focused on in the coming year? Best practices, just words of wisdom, and top of mind for you.
Top of mind for me. So for 2018, I'm much more focused for 2018 on helping brands make authentic consumer connections, and that's the broadest definition of media that's possible. So that's working with creators, influencers, and just the way they communicate and engage with consumers. I think brands have to wake up. It's not just a one-way communication anymore. It's a two-way communication. I think the other thing that's sort of top of mind is finding the right canvas for mobile. Mobile's a fantastic platform for being in the micro moments, but I think the creative environment for mobile is so restrictive and constrained and not great for romancing brands or storytelling. So discovering better ways to tell stories in mobile is very important.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us today, Joshua. And thank you all for tuning in. We will continue to experiment with this, and hopefully we will have another Q&A in the near future. But thanks again.
Thank you.